Welcome to the Draft and Stash, your one-stop shop for NBA news, free agency, draft, and everything in between. Sit back, relax, because it's time to start the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Draft and Stash. After a long hiatus, I am Andrew. Joining me today is nobody, just me and my thoughts. So I guess before we start, I wanted to just kind of give an update of what's been going on and where we've been. So I had gotten a new job, I think, around this time. And I've been moved around a lot. Some crazy life stuff happened where I was diagnosed with cancer, actually. And then we had our first child, and then my wife started a company. So it's just been crazy stuff. And then I was working on other podcasts and stuff, whatever. But I really wanted to get back to doing, Draft and Stash and basketball and just Grizzlies content in general. So let's just get right into the postseason stuff here. I think it's crazy that, you've got the early voting happened for Defensive Player of the Year, and Jaren was somehow behind Evan Mobley, which wasn't a contender for most of the year. It was always Brooke and Jaren. And there's just, if you just go off of just specific analytical data, Jaren owns almost every single category. So it's crazy that now they're like, oh, well, Evan played 900 more minutes. So that's, if your sentence starts with Jaren was the best defensive player, but just stop there. Because that's what it's for. You can go back and look, and guys like Kawhi Leonard and a few others played similar games in minutes and won Defensive Player of the Year. You give it to the person who was the best. That's just all there is to it. And he's been the best by far. At one point, I saw his numbers were comparative to Olajuwon back in the 90s and stuff. Like the things he's doing are stupid. And the argument for Evan Mobley is like, well, he has a lot of contests. He played 900 more minutes, so he's going to have more contests, right? But what is the field goal percentage versus his contest? Because it's not as good as Jaren's, who was the best in the entire league. So while you can say Evan Mobley guarded 1 through 5 more, he also got scored on a lot more as well. And you can't have it both ways. You can't say that he played more minutes but also had more contests. Like obviously he's going to have more stuff because he's playing more, right? So, and not only that, but Evan Mobley's defensive rating for his team was better when he was like not on the floor. So it's all these little semantics. Jaren is beginning to pull away. He's been by far the best. Not me as a biased Grizzlies fan. That's just in general. He's been the best player. So beyond that, you've got the Rookie of the Year, which should have been unanimous for Paolo Banchero out of Orlando. And you've just got one jackass out of Salt Lake voting for Walker Kessler. And it's just like, this is part of the issue is personal bias, right? Almost everybody in the markets are going to vote for their guys. I wonder if you should do like something where you can't vote for your own team in that region or something. Cause it just looks silly. Like in no world was Walker worthy over Paolo Banchero. Like you could argue more for, like a Jalen Williams, who was killer for the Thunder all year. But it is what it is. Moving on from there, it looks like Mike Brown's going to win Coach of the Year. He won the most recent coaches vote, which isn't the official choice. We still have to get into the media votes and everything else. But Mike Brown's done a really great job. He's always been like a really good guy, throughout all of his teams and stuff. And he's kind of gotten a short stick everywhere he's been. But I think he's done a really good job. I'm a little biased here because I feel as though Jenkins should have gotten some kind of acknowledgement for the fact that it's another 50-win season. It's another division banner. They're the second seed again, despite all the injuries that they had. I think they were like the third or fourth most missed games all year. With Jaren getting hurt, with Bane getting hurt, with Steven Adams being out almost 3 months, with John Morant getting hurt, Brandon Clark getting hurt, just so many guys, and they were able to just keep things rolling and have to re-envision their offense and their defense in terms of how things were going to work. Jaren had to basically on the fly take over for Steven and become the only post guy to basically anchor everything when he had Steven before that. I'm not saying Taylor just done a better job than Mike Brown. I'm not even like a big fan of Taylor Jenkins. I just think that he should get some recognition for continuing success despite all the issues that have happened. Beyond that, I think the MVP should be Jokic, but he's not going to get it. And he's not going to get it because for whatever reason, they never gave Jordan 3 in a row. Just because of either, voter fatigue or whatever it was. But because of that simple thing back in the 90s that they decided not to get, even though he won 6, he was never, I think that's right. He never won 3 in a row. So now retroactively, no player will ever be allowed to win 3 in a row simply because Jordan didn't win it. Right. So, you look at James and I don't want to say Steve Nash, but that was one of the bigger reasons why, he didn't win his third one, which I don't really think he deserved maybe the other 2, but it is what it is. Or Giannis or whatever, nobody will ever, folks will win more than 3 and they'll win 4 and 5, but they will never win 3 in a row. So because of that, I don't think Jokic wins it. If it's not him, I would give it to Giannis actually, but it's probably going to go to Embiid. I wish these awards went into the playoffs because he has yet to prove anything in the playoffs. His numbers are almost always worse. He's never clutch. I feel like his game kind of falls apart there when people figure him out and the refs stop bailing him out so much. And that's not to say he's not some, incredible talent. I want these players to kind of continue to prove it into the postseason when it really matters, which we are not really, getting so much. Beyond that, 6-man, I'm not really sure where that's going to go. There's a couple of options, Tyus Jones is one of them. I don't think he'll get any, real recognition or anything. For general manager of the year, maybe Scott Brooks for the Thunder might win it again. Their team was projected like 23 wins by Vegas. They got 40, so 17 more than that without Chet Holmgren. Also, that team's like finally starting to come together, and they have this really weird amalgam of guys that are like 6'7" and 6'8". They're like long, so they're this really tall team with not like great center size, but they're able to switch a lot, so it's very interesting what's going on down there, or over there, I guess. But I kind of imagine it would be him that would get there for that. Let's just talk about the Grizzlies season. I mean, it went 51-31. It was a tumultuous run. It started out, Jaren was hurt for the first 16, and Desmond, man, just got out of the blocks. Like, he was averaging 24 a game. He was killing it. And then he broke his toe. And it's still actually broken. He's just learned to play with the pain. And he said that he's going to have to get surgery afterwards. But so that happened. And then he missed a bunch of games, right? And so then it's really just Jod. And then Jaren came back and he's doing that. And then Zaire, who was a factor last year, had just completely fallen off. So they lost DeAnthony and Kyle Anderson, who are 2 players that were really key for them in the rotations. So you lose that. And, and so it was like every time you would get a player back, you would lose a player. And the team really didn't get a lot of games just to play, themselves, but they were incredible at home. They had the best home record in the entire league, incredible home court advantage, second in the West, and it's another good season despite everything that happened with Ja Morant and all the noise with that, and just him trying to torpedo his own career with, just trying to act tough and crazy. And, I hope he figures out that he doesn't have to be this character to be respected, and that he just, needs to be himself. But, I keep forgetting, I think we forget that these athletes are people that have been, they've been famous most of their life, but they're still like 22, 23 years old, so they're still learning things, man. Like, I was stupid, I mean, dude, I got banned off Twitter for threatening to fight people at the age of like 34. So I can't really throw stones, it's, it is what it is, So let's just get into a round 1, matchups here. There's not a lot of good ones. Let's just be real. I expect quick matches in a few of these. I think the Cavs-Knicks series could be really good. I think the Kings-Warriors series could be much better than people think. I think that's going to go far. We'll talk about that in a second. But I think most of these will be pretty wrapped up. I don't think in the East, 1, 2, or 3 are really challenged. In the West, I think Denver probably just crushes whoever ends up there, so we'll just move right into that, the Nugs have been really good, man. Their offense is incredible. Their defense is really hit or miss. It's Jokic, for all of his offensive virtuosity, is not very good on defense, and he kind of gets abused here and there. But he's such a positive net on the other end that it just overwhelms people. So it's really going to come down to their run in general. If Michael Porter is helpful. They gave him a bag, and he hasn't really been that player. Aaron Gordon is still solid there. They moved on from Bones Highland, who was a very microwave-esque player, but he was very consistent. So they got Reggie Jackson, who's been pretty solid for them as well. Jamal Murray's finally getting back to who he was, but if they're going to make a run, I think that Michael Porter is probably the key there. That they have a couple of other veterans in like Jeff Green and Jamal Green and stuff and everything. But I don't, those guys they'll be okay, but I don't expect them to turn any games. I expect Aaron Gordon, Nikola, Jokic, and Jamal Murray, and other top tier players are going to be the ones that are really going to be leaned on here. If they play against the Timberwolves, I think they sweep them. If they play against the Thunder, I think the Thunder are really feisty and they're like a swerve ball or something. I think they're a little tough to figure out, but I think the Nuggets beat them in 5 if they go at it. But that'll be really good, like exposure and experience. You look at the Grizzlies a few years ago when they went up against the Jazz after winning both playing games as well, which is the current thing with the Thunder will have to do to get in. And the Grizzlies won game 1, and then they got beat the next 4. But even though all those games were really close, they just weren't quite there yet. It was the Jazz, having Donovan Mitchell, and Mike Conley and a few other they had the experience. They knew when to counterpunch, how to go, and the Grizzlies just you just don't know until right? So it doesn't matter how much talent you have. You don't know how to win the playoffs until you actually get there. So I expect the Thunder to be fun and do some stuff, have some fun moments. I expect them to be the Timberwolves, but I think the Nuggets beat them pretty handily. Moving on from there, the 3-6 matchup, everybody's already throwing dirt on the grave of the Kings, which is kind of crazy to me. The Kings were incredible on offense, arguably the best offensive team. They're also one of the only solid Western road team. So, their game traveled a little bit, that they have a great home crowd. It's been 16 years since they've been back in, which is just nuts to think that it's been that long. It's been such a long process for them to get back to, being relevant again. As a Grizzlies fan, we got I don't want to say lucky, but we had a couple of down years and then some playoff years that were bad, and then some down years, and then we had the grit and grind. So we've been around for 21 or 22 years now. And a good bit of that we've been in the postseason. So it hasn't, so we're pretty accustomed to it at this point. So it sucks for the Kings who are so good early in the 2000s. And then they had such a long drought. It's so hard to win in the NBA. I think the Kings win in 7. I think the Kings win in 7. I said it twice in case you didn't hear it the first time. I think the Warriors are atrocious on the road. I think the Kings might get one on the road after maybe dropping one at home because of just early game jitters. I think their team is really held together. That Mike Brown's a good coach. Domantas Sabonis is a nightmare matchup. I guess you put Draymond Green on him or whatever, and you hope that. But they have so many ancillary pieces in Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes, and their rookie broke the all-time record for threes for a rookie, so he's deadly as well. And De'Aaron Fox, I'm so happy for Fox to finally be getting all the credit he's due. I've been a big fan of his for a long time, and he's, for whatever reason, people have been hating on him for a long time, but his moment has finally come. I know he's an all-star, and actually no, he didn't make the hold on. I believe he did make the All-Star team. It might have been like an injury replacement. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he's really good. He's good on both sides of the floor. He's got amazing hands on defense. He's just a super capable guard, and he's going to bust Steph Curry's ass. So as much as Steph is going to hit some threes and he's going to hang his mouthpiece out, and he's going to shake and everything, and they get the crowd going. De'Aaron Fox is going to be breaking his ankles every other play. He's going to be in the paint the entire time. And it's like, so maybe you put Clay on him, but Clay's kind of old and busted up on defense at this point also. So it's like, so he just busts him up instead. It's really going to be one of the biggest offensive, series that we're ever going to see. So I feel like the Warriors have to win one on the road. They have to. And at this point, I think as Warriors fans, you just keep thinking, they can turn it on. They can turn it on. They can turn it on. We'll see, man. I mean, like they're going to have at least one almost perfect game to win in Sacramento, because they have to win at least one. I just feel like the Kings prove everybody wrong, and they win a really, really hard series in 7. Moving on to, I think, which was one of the most anticipated matchups, and that was the Suns and the Clippers. The Suns have been red hot killer ever since Durant has been back in the lineup. I think they're like 9-0 with him in the lineup, just super deadly. They're slowly figuring it out. So many weapons. And now news of Paul George is going to miss the entire first round. I think the Clippers are lucky to get one here. I think the Suns just roll over them, and I might be alone here. The Clippers haven't proven anything to me. I mean, in all their years. I mean, like everybody I think on paper, it's a very NBA 2K-esque roster where you see all the talent and you're like, I don't know how this team isn't winning. I don't think it works together. I don't think it was built correctly. They need a real point guard that they haven't had one of those, even when they had Reggie Jackson. Like they need a guy like a Tyus Jones. They need a guy who is a legit floor general, who's going to come in. He's cool with scoring like 12 or 13 points, but he's going to get you like 12 assists, and he's going to run that offense to a T and get the ball in everybody's hands without interrupting anybody else's offense. That's what they need. But it's like they just haven't had that. Now they have Russell Westbrook, who's been okay because he always puts up numbers, but his point guard is so inconsistent now in terms of he's just better as like an on-ball scorer. So I expect the Suns to roll through the Clippers in 5 here. Moving to the East, the Bucks versus whoever lands in the 8. If it's Miami or if it is the Bulls, I think the Bucks sweep. They are just playing their ass off right now. They have so many good players going on. They're just gelling. Giannis looks like he's on this new mission. I think he's ready. I think he more so wants to Finals MVP than the regular season MVP, and I think the Bucks make it there again this year, but I think they roll through whoever unfortunately ends up as the 8 there. Moving into the 2-7, everybody was ready to write the Hawks off. There was this news about Trae Young maybe being traded, and he was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm about to lay into these Heat," and he did, man. The Heat just were behind the whole game, and they made a flurry, towards the end, but it was just too little too late. The Celtics are good, man. Jaylen Brown, Tatum, Smart, Al Horford, just such a complete team. They have a really great 1-2 punch. They have a good defensive combo with Smart and Robert Williams, but it's like Robert Williams has been so, ever since he came back, he's had a couple moments, but I really hope that him deciding to come back for the finals doesn't ruin his career. He was such a springy athlete, all about his second jump, awesome timing, really great on the defensive end, and he just hasn't really been that guy this year. But maybe with more elongated playing, maybe he slowly gets back to who he is. I think the Hawks will be lucky to win one here. Moving on to our 3-6, it's a Sixers. I don't know if it's a sweep or not, but the Nets are here by default. They did none of the work to actually get here. This specific team, because Durant and Irving built them up into the 2 seed, and then they did nothing but almost lose every game. They were, I think, 11-13, so it's under 500. That if the season had gone another month, they're not even in the play-in probably. But they're going to be there. I think the Sixers, really, really crush them. I mean, maybe the Nets luck up and Bridges just goes crazy. He's a really good player. Him and and other guys just start going bananas from outside. I think this is over in 5 though. The most intriguing matchup of the East is going to be the Cavaliers at 4 versus the Knicks. I think the Cavs win in 6. I think, you know, to me, the Knicks feel so, I don't want to say single-celled on offense, but they feel really anemic at times, you know, and it just, you know, if the ball's not moving, it's just that Tom Thibodeau style, you know, it starts out great and he slowly just grinds all hope and passion out of his players and he runs them into the ground and they just run out of gas, man. I just don't think they have the offensive versatility of the Cavaliers. They have more dynamic weapons, you know, and then they have two really great big men in Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Both are great on defense. And then Donovan Mitchell, I think it would be so awful for Knicks fans to lose to Donovan Mitchell after there were rumors that they were trying to get him by trading like RJ Barrett and some other players. And then to the other team that outbid them to get him and be the higher seed. To beat them would be just heartbreaking, but I think that's what happens here. Darius Garland is just really, really good. You know, I like their team. I like Karis LeVert. I like, you know, a lot of what's going on there. I think that they get to round 2. But let's talk about the series that some of y'all are here for, maybe, and that is the Grizzlies versus the 7-seed Lakers. Just like the Kings Warriors, everybody's already throwing dirt on the grave of the Grizzlies. You know, just such a tough matchup and this and that, and the Grizzlies are just, you know, this is the easiest path for the Lakers. And I'm like, did we watch the same season? I mean, like, he's LeBron James at 40 still has more respect than his entire Grizzlies team that just won back-to-back 50-win seasons, just locked up the best home record in the NBA, might have the defensive player of the year, could have had another all NBA player in John Morant if he hadn't been such an idiot and cost himself all that money this year. You know, having the arguably the two best shooter combo in the league with Luke Kennard and Desmond Bane, you know, and I think it's hysterical that nobody mentioned Brandon Clark's name or Steven Adams until we got to this point, for them to just use them as a counterpoint to why the Grizzlies are bad now, because they don't have Adams and Brandon Clark, but they haven't had Adams for almost 3 months. So like Jaren's been doing that for a while now. It's funny to me. And that's not to overshadow or say anything bad about this Laker team. They have really turned it around. Once they got in the actual players, like they were running G League guys. I mean, just players that weren't worth a damn. And now you go from Russell Westbrook, who just was never going to fit there, into D'Angelo Russell. But you know, even though he got his ass busted last year against the same Grizzlies team, so I imagine it's going to be more Schroeder than you know, Russell, because John Morant just obliterated him last year. So you've got, you know, Beasley, who's been really good. Vanderbilt is a great defender. Anthony Davis, when healthy, is arguably the most talented big man in the entire league, which I hope we get the Anthony Davis versus Jaren Jackson Jr. matchup here, where, you know, if he wants to be that defensive player of the year stalwart, you know, then dude, here's Anthony Davis. Go get him. Go prove your worth right here, right? Dylan Brooks was quoted before the 7-8 were even, like, you know, decided, saying that he wanted the Lakers because he wants to take on the legacy of LeBron. And I feel like people are going to run away with that because that's what ESPN does. But I think he was just saying that it would be really cool to get to go up against this, like, you know, legendary name and be the one to put them out. And I think just as a competitor, everybody would feel that way. It would be, you know, insane to, I mean, like, LeBron is one of the most, he's going to be one of the most historical, legendary NBA players of all time, up there with Jordan. And being able to be, you know, in your prime at 25 to go against this legend that you'll never get to see, you know, or a Kobe or something, it's got to be exciting. It's got to be so much fun. But we you know, it's going to be a crazy matchup. I think that, you know, let's just get into game one here. And, well, you know what we're going to do is I'm going to break down a couple of like caveats here that I think are going to matter. Right. So if you're looking at the star power for both these teams, I think that's obviously in favor of the Lakers. I think that will also go a long way with the officiating in this. The Lakers got the best whistle in the entire league this year. With you know, obviously with James and Davis. I mean, like, James is one of the best actors you'll ever see in your life, and he's earned that, you know, obviously. But you know, it's annoying to watch as a person who's not rooting for his team, because you know you see great defense going, and he's able to flail a little bit, and he gets a call because of who he is, and then then you look at the replay and there's just nothing but air sometimes. But it is what it is. So the Grizzlies are going to have to be able to play through that. So I think the name power is obviously in favor of the Lakers. You move on to that with coaches. I think, even though I'm not a huge fan of Taylor Jenkins, I think he has the nod here over Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham is really, new to this whole, coaching game. Jenkins has been at it for, 4 years now. He really knows his team. He knows what works here and there. I think, Darvin Ham getting into a playoff series for the first time, he's going to be really tested in terms of how to properly manage, his rotations and everything, and when to bring guys out, when to understand runs are happening, because the playoffs are a different monster, especially in a hostile crowd like at the Forum, even though Lakers fans travel. So it won't be as hostile as it should be, but it's still going to be pretty damn rowdy. Moving on from that, the home court obviously goes to Memphis. We already talked about their incredible run there. The starters, it's close to a push. If the Grizzlies had Adams, I would say it was easily in their favor for starter versus starter here. I mean, Ja is better than any point guard that they're going to throw out there. Dez is better than any shooting guard that they're going to throw out there. LeBron's better than, obviously he's way better than Brooks. I mean, if Brooks can hold James to like 24 points a game, that's going to be huge. If he can hold him to 7 to 8 points less than what he normally does, that's really big. So he should just have his bar set at under 25, and he's doing good. But, James is obviously better than him. You have Anthony Davis. I'm not really sure if he is the 4 or the 5 for the Lakers, but, he's obviously going to be better than whoever he's matching up against. It might be Tillman, who he needs to just hold on to that rope and hope that, he can also hold Davis to reasonable numbers that are not superstar status. That's going to be like a main issue. And then it feels like, Vanderbilt is nowhere near as good as Jaren Jackson. I imagine that, I don't know if they're going to put Vanderbilt on Ja. I know that that's what the Timberwolves had to do last year. And he did a pretty good job. One of Ja's main weaknesses is playing against a wing that is substantially bigger than him, like 6'6", 6'7", great length, and is athletic, and that they can keep pace. Ja feasts on guards, because guards, even though they're quick, he's so twitchy, he can get by him. But those big guys, their length lets them recover faster on Ja. So that's really where he gets hampered. But if you put Jared Vanderbilt on Ja, then you're going to put Anthony Davis on Jaren Jackson. Okay. And it's just like, and then like Dez is going to like go off, so it's going to be a very pick your poison, I think there, but I have a slight edge to the Grizzlies there. I also have a slight edge to the Grizzlies on the bench. I think the Lakers bench is literally 3 guys. It's going to be Malik Beasley, Rui Hachimura, and Schroeder. Nobody else on that bench is even going to see the floor probably. And I look at the Grizzlies, and they got Tyus Jones, who's really good. Luke Kennard has been insane ever since getting back with the Grizzlies. His last, I think, like 10 or 12 games, he's averaging like 14 or 15 points a game off the bench, shooting like a 54% clip from 3. Like he almost averaged 50% for the year. He was the top shooter. He's going to be a huge weapon for them off the bench. So that's a like preview for game 1 here. Then you've got David Roddy, the rookie who's been getting a lot of minutes at that 3-4 spot. He's pretty creative. Aldama has had a really good second year here as well. So I give a slight, and then Conchar is a more experienced guard that, Jenkins likes to use here and there. He's a really funky player that can get a lot of rebounds, and he makes good plays sometimes, but he kind of gets his ass beat on defense sometimes. He's not very athletic, so those bigger players sometimes just like can bust him up. So, I feel like Jenkins has got more options than Ham is going to have. So because of that, I've got the Grizzlies in 6. I think that it's going to be a really fun series, super exciting, a lot of fireworks. But I think the Grizzlies are able to eventually get over the hump, probably win one in LA. And I think that they eventually get it done. But let's just do like a game 1 preview here. It's Sunday, April the 16th. I believe it's the early game. So it's either on at 2 or 3 Eastern. I can't remember exactly which I think is actually going to be in favor of the Lakers. The Grizzlies have notoriously been terrible in early games on Sundays, especially in the playoffs. I can only think of one win, and that is when the Grit and Grind first year playing the Thunder in round 2. They had to play on Sunday early game, and Zach Randolph had like 26 and 14 or something, and then Durant called him arguably one of the best, big men in the entire league. I think that was like the last win that we've had. We just do not play well on that early Sunday game. I don't know what it is. So hopefully they are ready to play. I mean, last year versus the Warriors, it was the early game and they lost the game by 1 point. John misses the layup at the end. It just took them so long to get going. So I think that favors the Lakers. They also have more experience with early games. I mean, James has played probably like double the amount of playoff games that all the Grizzlies have, combined, if not 3 times more. And then they have that championship pedigree. I think they're really going to understand how to get their motors running earlier than the Grizzlies are. If there's going to be an upset in this series for the Lakers to steal a game, it's going to be game 1. I don't think that they can get any other game in Memphis, but if they're going to win one, I think it's game 1. Moving on to the X factors, Luke Kennard is going to be the X factor in this first game. If he can get going and hit and be what Luke has been, which is, I think, God, he's shooting like 90% or 80% from 3 at home the last like 4 or 5 games, just bombing it out. He hit 10 3 a few weeks ago. He shot like 10 of 11. He's really been finding his spots and spaces really, really well since getting more acquainted with this current offense. And he is, it's a big difference having him in the corner shooting those threes over like a John Conchar or something. All of a sudden there's a guy who's crazy deadly out there. Oh wait, and it's not Desmond Bane because he's on the other side. So it's weird to see another guy shoot better than Bane, who's been shooting like 43% from 3 for the Grizzlies for like the last 2 years. On the Lakers side, I've already said it. I think Schroeder is their X factor. If they're going to have a chance to play a guard-on-guard matchup against John Morant, it's going to be Dennis Schroeder. He's a pretty crafty defender. He's also pretty quick. So I expect him to be able to hang with Ja a little bit here and there. And if he can win a few spots, he's not going to win the war, but if he can win a few battles here and there throughout the game, just to cause a few turnovers, hit a couple of threes, that could be good enough. I do not expect D'Angelo Russell to do much in this series. He might have a game, maybe 2, where he hits over 20. But he was targeted by the Grizzlies hard last year. He guys just destroyed by Desmond Bane or John Morant, whoever he had to guard. They went right at him. Moving on to what to watch for, I think in this first game matchups, I think both coaches are going to be trying to figure out where the chess game begins in terms of where players are being put on each other, and seeing where they can, cheat moments here and there, if they can hide John Morant here and there, because, he's going to play defense also. He's also not a very good, defensive guard. So, I mean, maybe the Grizzlies put Ja on Austin Reeves and the Lakers really go for Austin Reeves in that matchup to see if he can get it going. He didn't really have a really great game in the play-in. He scored a little bit, but, he had a couple of pretty cool layups, but, not what he had been doing. But so I would look for that matchup as well. If Austin Reeves can get buckets on Ja, that'd be really big as well. Because Desmond Bane's going to abuse him. He's going to get 25 probably. That's my who shows out in game 1 is going to be Desmond Bane. I think he goes for over 25. I think he hits 4 or 5 threes, and he goes downhill. I think he looks like an all-star. I would not be surprised if he outscores John Morant in this first game. And then I think Jaren Jackson shows some moments. I don't think he scores a lot, but I think you're going to get a lot of good punch scoring from guys off the bench. Tyus Jones with 12, Tillman with 10, Jaren with 13 in the starting lineup, David Roddy with 8. I think you're going to get a really good overall diet from everybody in the first game, with Desmond Bane being the lead guy. And then game 2 is going to be more of the Ja show and things like this and everything. But I would not be shocked if the Lakers win game 1, and everybody's very sad about it. But I think the Grizzlies win in 6. That's just my thought, though. Guys, a little bit of news. So Chip, who joins me normally, he actually moved back to Memphis. So I'll be able to get him on regularly. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to try to get Frank in here also to get back at it. So that could be really, really, I would love to get back at this and do this at least once a week. I love talking about the NBA and everything. I think this playoffs are going to be really fun, man. It's such a wide open league that we haven't seen it like this in a very long time. And I don't know. If I had to pick right now, I think the Bucks win it all. I think Giannis gets his second, a Finals MVP. I think he gets his second championship. I don't know in the West, because I want to be biased and say Memphis, but they have a really hard run, So even if they beat the Lakers in 6 or whatever, odds are, the Warriors probably win, even though I think the Kings can get it done in 7. Either one, that's going to be a really hard matchup. The Kings are great at home. As I already said, the Warriors and the Grizzlies hate each other. I think the marquee matchup would be against the Warriors because Draymond Green and Dylan Brooks legitimately hate each other, and Clay hates them. It's such a weird dynamic of rivalry going on. And, man, I wouldn't be shocked if the Suns make a run here. Kevin Durant has looked really good with them. But it's going to be fun, guys. So stay tuned. We're going to be getting more into draft stuff as we go along. Chip will be joining me next week, and we will break down game 1 and then also preview game 2. Frank might also be involved. And I'm going to do something where Chip will give us a prospect or two every time he joins. And then we're going to get into our bigger draft shows and everything, guys. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.